The phone slipped from Margaret's trembling hands and crashed onto the kitchen floor. She stood frozen, staring at the Facebook notification that had just shattered her world. Kevin Miller changed his relationship status to married. Below it was a photo album. Her son Kevin, in a crisp navy suit, standing next to his bride Ashley in a flowing white gown. Champagne glasses raised. Smiling faces everywhere. Ashley's parents. Her siblings. Friends Margaret had never met. But not her. Not the woman who had spent the last 4 years paying their rent. Not the mother who had emptied her retirement savings to keep them comfortable. Margaret was 68 years old, a retired schoolteacher from Ohio, and she had just discovered that her only son got married without telling her. The betrayal didn't come out of nowhere. Looking back, Margaret could trace the slow erosion of her relationship with Kevin to the moment he met Ashley 6 years ago. Ashley was beautiful, charming, and knew exactly how to get what she wanted. At first, Margaret thought she was imagining things. The way Ashley would interrupt her mid-sentence. The subtle eye rolls when Margaret offered advice. The gradual shortening of phone calls and visits. But then came the requests. Small at first. "Mom, we're a little short this month. Could you help with groceries?" Margaret happily sent $200. Then $300. Then $500 became the new normal. When Kevin lost his job, Margaret offered to help with rent temporarily. That was 4 years ago. The temporary help became permanent, and the $1,200 monthly payment became as routine as her morning coffee. Over those 4 years, Margaret had given them approximately $33,000. She calculated it one sleepless night, going through bank statements with shaking hands. $33,000 that should have been for her retirement. $33,000 that could have paid for the trip to Italy she had always dreamed of. $33,000 that represented years of careful saving from her modest teacher's pension. And now, $33,000 that apparently wasn't enough to earn her a seat at her own son's wedding. The phone call came 3 days after Margaret discovered the wedding photos. She had spent those days in a fog, barely eating, unable to sleep, replaying every interaction trying to understand where she had gone wrong. "Mom, hey, we need to talk." Kevin's voice was casual, as if he was calling to discuss the weather. "Kevin." Margaret's voice was steady, surprising herself. "I saw the photos." A pause. "Yeah, about that." Ashley wanted something intimate. Just close family and friends. We didn't want to make a big deal out of it. "Close family," Margaret repeated. "I saw Ashley's parents in the photos. Her sisters. Her college roommate." "Mom, don't be dramatic. You know how stressful weddings are. Was I not close enough family, Kevin? Was I not special enough to be there?" The words hung in the air. Margaret could hear Ashley's voice in the background, urgent whispers she couldn't quite make out. "Look, Mom, we can celebrate together later. Actually, that's why I'm calling. The rent is due next week and we're a little behind. The wedding was more expensive than we planned, and..." Margaret laughed. It was a sound she didn't recognize, hollow and sharp. "You're calling me for money. 3 days after I found out you got married without me. You're calling me for rent money. Mom, come on. Don't be like this. You've always helped us out. We're family." Family, Margaret said slowly, invites each other to weddings. She hung up. That night, Margaret sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea gone cold and a lifetime of memories spread before her. Photos of Kevin as a baby, as a toddler taking his first steps, as a teenager in his graduation gown. She remembered the years after her husband passed, how she had devoted everything to raising Kevin alone. The double shifts. The sacrifices. The endless love poured into a child who had somehow become a stranger. The phone rang again. This time it was Ashley. "Margaret, I think there's been a misunderstanding." Ashley's voice was honey-sweet, the tone she used when she wanted something. Kevin is really upset. He feels terrible about the wedding. We both do. It all happened so fast, and we just didn't have time to plan a bigger event. You had time to invite your entire family. That's different. They were already in town and... Ashley, I paid for your wedding dress. Margaret's voice cracked. The $800 I sent you last month for emergencies. That was for your dress, wasn't it? Silence. I helped pay for a wedding I wasn't invited to. Margaret, you're being unreasonable. We'll make it up to you. We can have dinner, just the three of us. But right now, we really need help with the rent. The landlord is threatening eviction and... No. The word felt foreign in Margaret's mouth. She had never said no to Kevin. Not once in 35 years. Excuse me? No, Ashley. I won't be sending money this month. Or next month. Or ever again. You can't be serious. We depend on you. We've made financial commitments based on your support. You can't just abandon us. I didn't abandon you. You abandoned me. The moment you decided I wasn't special enough to watch my only son get married. Margaret hung up and turned off her phone. The next morning, Margaret did something she hadn't done in years. She went to the bank and spoke with her financial advisor, a kind woman named Patricia who had watched Margaret's account drain month after month without comment. I need to cancel all automatic transfers to my son's account, Margaret said. And I want to set up new security measures. No one else should have access to my money. Patricia nodded slowly. Are you sure about this, Mrs. Miller? This is a significant change. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. As Patricia processed the changes, Margaret's phone buzzed. She had turned it back on to receive a confirmation code, and immediately the messages flooded in. Kevin, Mom, please pick up. This is serious. Ashley, you're making a huge mistake. We'll have to move. Kevin, how can you do this to your own son? Ashley, we're going to lose everything because of your selfishness. Margaret read each message, then deleted them one by one. 2 weeks later, Margaret opened her door to find Kevin standing on her porch. He looked disheveled, desperate. Behind him in the driveway sat a moving truck. Mom, we got evicted. We have nowhere to go. You have to let us stay here. Margaret looked at her son, this man she had raised and loved and sacrificed everything for. She searched for the boy who used to bring her dandelions from the backyard. The teenager who hugged her tight after his father's funeral. The young man who promised he would always take care of her. That boy was gone. No, Kevin. No? What do you mean, no? I'm your son. And I'm your mother. The mother you didn't invite to your wedding. The mother you only call when you need money. The mother you've been using for 4 years while treating me like a stranger. Mom, Ashley, and I are going through a rough time. Once things stabilize, it'll be different. Will it? When has it ever been different, Kevin? When was the last time you called me just to ask how I was doing? When was the last time you visited without asking for money? Kevin couldn't answer. I spent $33,000 on you and Ashley. $33,000 from my retirement, from your father's life insurance, from money I saved penny by penny over decades of teaching. And you couldn't spare me a seat at your wedding. It was Ashley's idea, Kevin blurted. She said you would make things awkward. That you didn't fit with her family's image. The confession hung in the air, more devastating than anything that had come before. It wasn't just neglect. It was deliberate exclusion. Ashley had decided Margaret wasn't good enough, and Kevin had agreed. Then you made your choice, Margaret said quietly. You chose Ashley's image over your mother's presence. Now you get to live with that choice. Mom, please. We'll lose everything. You already lost the only thing that should have mattered. You lost me. She closed the door. 3 months later, Margaret sat on a beach in Florida, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. She had sold her house in Ohio, donated to charities that help elderly abuse victims, and bought a small condo near her sister, who she hadn't seen in years because she was always too busy funding Kevin's life. Her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Mrs. Miller? This is Dr. Harrison from Westview Medical Center. We have a Kevin Miller here who listed you as his emergency contact. Margaret's heart seized. Despite everything, the maternal instinct never fully died. Is he okay? He was in a minor car accident. Nothing serious, but he's asking for you. He's quite emotional. He keeps saying he needs to apologize to his mother. Margaret was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the $33,000. The wedding photos. The closed door. The years of being treated as nothing more than a bank account with a heartbeat. I'm sorry, doctor. I'm no longer his emergency contact. You should try his wife. She hung up and turned back to the sunset. Epilogue. A year later, Margaret received a letter. Real paper, real ink, a real stamp. Kevin's handwriting, shaky and unfamiliar. Mom. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not even sure I deserve forgiveness. But I needed you to know that losing you was the wake-up call I needed. Ashley left me 3 months after you closed that door. Turns out, without your money, I wasn't worth staying with either. I've been working 2 jobs, living in a studio apartment, learning what it means to actually earn a living. I understand now. Not because I'm struggling, but because I finally have time to think. You weren't special enough for my wedding, you said. The truth is, I wasn't special enough to be your son. Not the way I was acting. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking to move in. I'm just asking if, someday, you might be willing to have coffee with me. Just coffee. I'll pay. I love you, Mom. I always did. I just forgot how to show it. Kevin. Margaret read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it carefully and placed it in her drawer. Maybe someday she would call. Maybe someday she would be ready to try again. But for now, she had a sunrise to watch, a life to live, and the beautiful, hard-won knowledge that her love was worth more than any dollar amount. She was finally special enough. For herself.